let's go through how to add a Cococoir pole to your Philodendron White Princess. As you can see, this philodendron has grown quite tall and can no longer support herself. Cococoir poles are an affordable and low maintenance way to support your plants and will help your leaves to grow bigger. Well, that's what this video is supposed to be about, and I do show you how to do this, but we also end up going in for a chop and prop. If you are already subscribed to my channel, this won't come as a surprise, as you already know I am very snip happy. We will get to the propagation later in this video. For now, let's look at how to add a support pole to your plant. Simply push your pole down into the soil quite close to the base of your plant. Be careful not to damage any roots whilst you're doing this. I love these bendy poles because you can change them into any shape and give your plant a more organic flow. To secure your plant to your pole, I like to go in with some twine. This is super easy to use and affordable, and it's also quite subtle against your plant. Cococoir poles are more similar to trellises than moss poles. I use them to support my plants so they sit upright, as opposed to a moss pole which you want your plant's roots to grow into. Moss poles are quite a permanent option, and they are also fairly high maintenance as you need to keep them moist. I do often mist the plants which are on Cococoir poles and have had previous ones root into the pole as well, but this is not as common. Now this plant is nice and secure, which will help the leaves to grow bigger, and it will also stop the roots from getting damaged. As this plant is getting quite leggy now, I decided when it grew and reached the top of this Cococoir pole that I was going to propagate it. Now, this didn't take too long, and a week after this first video is when I went in for the snip. Before that, let's go through some basic care tips for the Philodendron White Princess. First, let's look at how you can tell what kind of philodendron you have. The foliage of the Philodendron White Knight, Philodendron White Princess, and Philodendron White Wizard is nearly identical. The leaves on each have green and white variegation, and the easiest way to tell what kind of philodendron you have is by spinning it around. The White Knight has burgundy stems with white variegation. The White Princess has green stems with pink or white variegation, and the White Wizard has green stems with white variegation. The identification on this plant said it was a white wizard, but as you can see, there is a strong pink hue on the stem, meaning she is a white princess. Of the three, the White Knight is the rarest. Now let's get back to basic care for the philodendron. These plants like bright indirect sunlight, so make sure they are in a sunny room. I water my plants weekly in summer and less in the cooler months. As for plant food, I add a liquid fertiliser every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. During the cooler months, you only need to fertilise once a season. Keeping the leaves on your plants clean will help them to photosynthesize and also keep them pest-free. I like to put mine in the shower for a good rinse down, but if your water isn't suitable for this, you can go in with a cloth. Now the prop. As you can see, this plant had grown quite long and leggy. The best way to help your plants to bush out is by cutting them. Philodendrons are a very easy plant to propagate as they provide aerial roots as a guide of where to snip. For each propagation, you want about 3 leaves, so I'm going to split this cutting into 2. Having 2 cuttings also doubles your chances of having a successful rooted propagation. Here is my Philodendron Brazil, which I've chopped and propped before, and you can see how much bushier she is. I replanted my propagated sections back into the mother plant, and now there's multiple growth points and there is no legginess. I am using the water propagation method to propagate these sections, and I'm going to let them callus slightly before I put them into water. Letting your plant callus for a few hours before putting it into water will help to stop rot from getting into the stem. Water propagation is my preferred method, and I have water propagated and rooted so many different plants successfully. I have never used a rooting hormone to help my plants root, but I just got my hands on one and thought I would do a little experiment. For one of my cuttings, I'm going to dip in the rooting hormone, and the other one I'm going to let grow as normal. Besides this, don't change the water, just top it up as needed. You also only want the bottom inch of your cutting submerged in water. I am using a cork ring to the top of this propagation vessel so that my plant doesn't fall too far in. If your propagations have failed and rotted in the water, this could be one of the reasons why. I'll be documenting how each of these cuttings grows over the next few weeks and also what the mother plant looks like, so stay tuned for that.